Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Is an invasion of our country by human traffickers. These are people that are horrible people, bringing in women mostly, but bringing in women and children into our country. Human trafficking by airplane is almost impossible.
Oh, my God.
Human trafficking by van and truck and the backseat of a car, and going through a border where there's nobody for miles and miles and there's no wall to protect. It's very easy. They make a right, then they make a left, they come into our country, and they sell people. Human traffickers and sex traffickers take advantage of the wide open areas between our ports of entry to smuggle thousands of young girls and women into the United States and to sell them into prostitution and modern-day slavery.
You know what's really creepy is Nancy knows. Nancy knows. Everybody, knows who wants to know that Donald Trump ran a modeling agency, that there were underage girls, that they were living in a basement in the East Village, that they were living in bunk beds. He was charging them $1,600 a month to live in a freaking bunk bed. And then whenever they would go out to work on their tourist visa, which the labor secretary is supposed to enforce, that, if you're here on a tourist visa, you're not allowed to work. But Donald Trump was literally charging them for their bed, in the bunk bed, in the basement of this decrepit building in Manhattan. He was charging them for hair and makeup and dance lessons and posing and portfolios, to the point where they would work here and get absolutely nothing for themselves. It was a slave situation. And some of these girls were 14 and 15. And there is a documentary, a BBC documentary that, shows that, there were at least 16 women who have publicly accused Donald Trump of inappropriate sexual behavior. There are new accusers, people you've never heard of before. Barbara Piling, she said Trump made advances towards her when she was 17. She even says that Trump asked her how old she was, and she said 17. She was one of the models from the modeling agencies that he brought to one of the parties, and she said, "I'm 17." He said, "Oh, great! So you're not too old and you're not too young. That's just great." She said she felt like she was in the presence of a shark, getting ready to roll his eyes back in his head and bite me. She said he was predatory toward other attendees and described a moment where he touched a waitress inappropriately when she brought him a drink. She said there was lots of cocaine around. I got news for you. There are so many people that put the president of the United States in a room with underage girls, in a room with 5 wealthy billionaires and 50 girls, and lots of cocaine, and lots of booze, and lots of underaged women. And yet, doesn't come up. So Michael Cohen is going to testify on Wednesday in public to the House Oversight Committee. Now, you know who's on the House Oversight Committee? Elijah Cummings is the chairman. Okay, so that's great. Also, AOC is on the House Oversight Committee now. So that ought to be interesting. Debbie Wasserman Schultz from Florida, who I'm sure knows this story backwards and forwards, and now knows the story of the day spas and the strip malls and the Chinese that are coming here over some weird land bridge that's connecting to Mexico so that they can come over the border. And this is why we need a wall to stop human trafficking. She's on the Oversight Committee. Jackie Spear, who actually was on the ground in Guyana when the Jim Jones cult was active. She was there with her Congress member. She was a staffer, and her Congress member was shot and killed on the tarmac in Guyana. So Jackie Spear might be a little sensitive to stories like this. But I just pray to God that they ask Michael Cohen about this modeling agency that he had. And they asked Michael Cohen about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And they ask him about his relationship with Alan Dershowitz and why Alan Dershowitz is on the TV all the time defending Donald Trump's obstruction of justice. It's just such a small group of swamp creatures, isn't it? And this is the swampiest of the swampy. So I just hope that somebody has the temerity to go down that road, because you understand, Michael Cohen will have to testify about the payments he made to Stormy Daniels and to Karen McDougal. Again, Donald Trump denies having sex with Stormy Daniels. He just paid her because he didn't have sex with her. That's his story. He's sticking to it. And Michael Cohen had to plead guilty to making those payments as directed by Donald Trump. So you got to wonder, what else does he cover up with regard to his sexual peccadillos? I mean, at least these two were of age. At least these two were consenting. But what about the ones who weren't or aren't? Is it still going on? What does Michael Cohen know? How many women have filed cases against Donald Trump? And what actions has he ever taken to, depress their quest for justice? Justice. Has he paid them? Has he, talked to their parents? I mean, what has he? I am so curious now. I do realize that they want Michael Cohen to testify about Trump's business is. They want Trump to testify about some insurance scam I heard on Friday, insurance claims that the company, Trump organization, had filed over the years, where they said $17 million in damages when there were no damages to any property, and then they just pocketed the insurance money. Okay, that's all well and good, and that's, criminal, and that's fraud, and I get that. But this is ongoing, and these cases are still in play. And what does Michael Cohen, his fixer, know about this? Now, I just hope to God that AOC or one of her staff members, or Jackie Spear or one of her staff members, or I know that, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, her staff members, there's a lot of people that listen. There's a lot of people that hear what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that read my Twitter feed, and that they all say, you know what? Let's ask. Please ask. Just ask. Just ask the questions. Because this president obviously has a human trafficking rape fantasy thing going on in his head. And something tells me that it's because he's done it. Something tells me that everything that he bitches about are things that he's done. This whole Pizzagate thing about running pedophile rings did not come out of whole cloth. It wasn't just a whole bunch of right-wing lunatics sitting around. No, this was Chernovich. This was Alex Jones. This was Roger Stone. This was Jerome Corsi feeding that beast. And something tells me they fed it with just enough truth about somebody else and pinned it on Hillary. Something really insanely ugly is going on. And like I said, Michael Cohen is not, he's going to testify privately. I think he's doing it today. He's testifying privately to the House Intelligence Committee. And then he's testifying privately on Thursday to the Senate Intelligence Committee. But on Wednesday, he's testifying publicly to the House Oversight Committee. And I can't think of a better topic to have oversight over than his human trafficking rape fantasy that he has. Now, Ken Delanian, says that there's some sort of clue from Lanny Davis, I believe, is who he credited with this, that when Michael Cohen testifies, it's going to be bone-chilling.
Before the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, he's expected to address, first of all, his lies to those committees on the timing of the Trump Tower Moscow deal, the fact that it was going on much longer than he admitted in public and much longer than Donald Trump ever acknowledged. And just to back up on that, I mean, this is a really important point because Michael Cohen in the plea documents exposed the fact that Donald Trump had lied during the campaign when he said he had no contacts, no dealings with Russia, because there was a meeting that Michael Cohen had with Donald Trump where they discussed approaching Vladimir Putin's government about the Trump Tower Moscow deal. So you can expect that he will clear all that up with the House and the Senate behind closed doors. But in public on Wednesday, we could have an absolutely dramatic and riveting performance by Michael Cohen, because while he's not allowed to talk about the Russia investigation when he appears before the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday, he is going to talk about those hush money payments to women.
Right.
And then there's an interesting list that House Oversight put out. The president's compliance with financial disclosure requirements, the president's compliance with campaign finance laws, the president's compliance with tax laws, potential and actual conflicts of interest, the president's business practices, Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. And I'm told that Cohen has been prepping for this for a long time, and he knows that he's got credibility issues, so he's coming with documents. And he's got very detailed, sordid, and what Lanny Davis has described as chilling stories about how the president conducts himself behind closed doors. I think we shouldn't underestimate how powerful seeing a Trump insider who's been with Donald Trump for more than 10 years telling these stories before the glare of the television lights. We shouldn't underestimate how powerful that will be.
No, I have high hopes for the Oversight Committee. I have high hopes for the... Now, Jim Jordan's on the Oversight Committee, too, so you could just skip that part because he's just going to defend. He's a freedom cracker, and this president can do no wrong because he's sufficiently racist enough for Jim Jordan. But did you hear what Ken Delanian just said? That he's coming with documents and that he's ready to tell some sordid, chilling descriptions of the way Donald Trump behaves behind closed doors. And of course, the natural lead-in for testimony about sordid and bone-chilling behavior behind closed doors is the payments that Trump made to two women who we know he paid. That's a great lead-in, because we know that at his allocution, when Michael Cohen pled guilty to making those payments, he said he did it at the direction of Donald Trump. So what else did he do at the direction of Donald Trump that was also sordid? And why bone-chilling? You know, it's not so bone-chilling that there were two of-age women, one with the world's worst taste in men that I've ever seen a beautiful girl have. I mean, she is gorgeous. Karen McDougal she's absolutely blessed, okay, in her physical appearance. But the taste she had in men is so bizarrely questionable. She said she loved him. She was actually in love with him, and he paid her. Now, Stormy Daniels, as we know, she's a free spirit. She is a person who knows the power that she innately has as a beautiful woman. And so she chose to use her power in the way that she chose to use her power. And so that's not bone-chilling either. So what is it that's so bone-chilling? What is it that's so sordid? What is it that's going to raise the hair on the arms and necks of women across America? What is it that Michael Cohen can't testify to and that he's got documentary evidence for? Because, you know, Jim Jordan's going to say you're a liar and you've always been a liar and you never told the truth and da-da-da-da-da. And he would be right because Michael Cohen was a liar. Michael Cohen did lie. He pled guilty to lying to law enforcement. So he needs to bring documentary evidence. God only knows if he has tape recordings that he's bringing. I don't have any idea. But people on the Oversight Committee, especially the women, Jackie Spear, AOC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, even Elijah Cummings, you better ask the freaking questions. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.